Welcome to the NewChurch podcast.
Okay, so you're going about your day. You're minding your own business. You're just thinking your own thoughts. When out of the blue, someone says something that doesn't sound quite right, or sounds absolutely wrong, or they do something that you don't like, and you feel your pulse start to quicken. Your heart, it beats a little bit louder. People with opinions. But what happens next? Do you speak up? Do you speak your mind? Or do you stuff it down inside? But it feels like a Mentos in a Diet Coke bottle. And then if you do get in an argument with someone, who usually gets mad first? You or them? You know, some people, they're proud of how they go straight to aggressive, how they don't take nothing off nobody, like it's a virtue. Do we really think letting our emotions bubble up and take control just because someone is frustrating us, do we really think that's a sign of strength, maturity? Because if that's the case, man, babies, they must be the strongest, most mature people on the planet, because they lose their mind if they have to burp. I'm always amused when, like, big tough guys who think they're some kind of alpha male, they get mad and they think, you want to go? You want to be on the news? And they're staring a hole through me with their rage. Who do you think you are, cutting me off like that? And I'm like, nah, it's okay, man. You can use the checkout next. I don't care. I wouldn't want your sad, hungry man dinner to thaw out. But it's not just men. We all know that women are just as likely to be a powder keg. Go full-on Chihuahua mode or shrieking banshee over like the smallest things. You know, like someone may or may not have left a cereal bowl on the couch. Or they forgot to take the trash out. Or they might have said something like, you're acting like your mother. What? But I'm really talking about the dumb arguments. Like arguments with friends, classmates, co-workers. Those times when we're just trying to prove that we're right. You ever get mad because someone has a different understanding of politics or baptism, how to raise kids, whether chili should have beans or not? I mean, it should. Otherwise, it's just hot dog sauce. I'm kidding, except about the beans part. Why do we get mad when we argue? Are we actually surprised someone has different opinions than we do? Is that a shocker? Do we think it's okay to get mad just because someone gets mad at us? Well, the Bible has something to say about all this. In Proverbs 26:4, it says, do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. So don't return that anger of alpha baby man or Chihuahua mama. Try to not let their anger affect you. Which is like that old saying, don't wrestle with a pig because you'll just get muddy and the pig will enjoy it. On the other hand, the Bible also has this to say about disagreement. Proverbs 26:5. It says, answer a fool according to his folly, or he'll be wise in his own eyes. So do not answer a fool according to his folly. Also, answer a fool according to his folly. So that certainly clears everything up for us, right? It actually does, but it's in the second half of the lines. Or you'll be just like him. In other words, don't let their emotions and their foolishness drive you to sin. And then in the other one, or he will be wise in his own eyes. Meaning, it's not good to let a fool walk around thinking their foolishness is wisdom. But someone might get hurt. But pick your battles. And when you do engage, the truth has to be spoken with grace, in humility. Not with you all jacked up on anger and pride. But I know it's hard. I know. Well, today, Jesus, he's going to get into some arguments. Let's pay attention to how he handles himself in those arguments. He had just told the parable of the vineyard, accusing the most important religious leaders in the capital city of Jerusalem of rejecting the Messiah, rejecting God's plan of salvation. He also told them that God was going to judge them, destroy them, and give everything they've been trying so desperately to hold on to. He was going to give all that to someone else. So obviously they were not pleased with any of that. Luke chapter 20, starting at verse 19. The scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told this particular parable against them. No kidding. But they feared the people, so they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere, that they might catch him in something he said, so as to deliver him up to the authority and jurisdiction of the governor. They're going to send some spies to flatter Jesus and trap him into saying something that they can run to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, tell him something that will get Jesus in trouble with Rome. It's all an attempt to kill Jesus without making the people turn against them. In these arguments, Jesus is going to be very respectful. I mean, for a guy who knows they're trying to get him to say something they can use to hang him. So we can learn a lot about how to have conversations with people who are attacking us. Verse 21, so they asked him, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not?" Okay, now we know they're buttering him up, which is gross. But they're also doing this in front of all the people. So even if they're lying through their teeth, it still affirms what the people believe about him. And from their perspective, the religious establishment is praising Jesus, supporting him, that what he's teaching is right and true, that he says the truth no matter who's listening, with no partiality. They even go so far as to say he speaks with the authority of God, which is exactly what they were trying to challenge last time they showed up. So sure, we know that they're as phony as a politician selling used cars, but it's having the opposite effect on the people who are watching. And then they set their trap. Was it lawful for us to pay tribute to Caesar or not? And they think they're being like really tricksy, because if Jesus says, yes, you should pay tribute to Caesar, well, then all the zealots and the patriotic Jews, they're going to turn against Jesus. All those people who hate tax collectors and Rome. But if he says, no, you should not pay taxes to Rome, well, see, now they can run straight to Pilate and have him arrested. So it's a very tricksy question. And then what happens is Jesus, he knew he was beat. So he just kind of throws up his hands. He's like, you got me. You guys are too clever for little old me. I give up. Well, either that or verse 23. But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have?" And they said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were not able, in the presence of the people, to catch him in what he said. But marveling at his answer, they became silent. See, they didn't see this coming. It's actually a pretty good answer, quite an answer, because first he asks them to show him a denarius, which is a Roman coin, worth about a day's wages. So that'd be like a couple $100 in Katy, Texas money. And the dude doesn't hesitate. He pulls a coin out of his own pocket. He also didn't see that he was about to fall into a reverse trap. Jesus asked, "So whose image is on that coin?" And the scribe says, "Caesar's image on it, of course." And that seems innocent enough to all of us here because we have faces on our money too, right? But he also asked about that inscription. And this is what the inscription said. It said, "Tiberius Caesar, son of the divine Augustus." So it not only has the image of Caesar, but it calls him divine, which brings the possession and use of that coin into the realm of idolatry. Poor little scribe didn't see that coming, did he? So Jesus' answer, it goes far beyond, "Sure, pay your taxes, who cares?" What he says is actually more like, you should get rid of all those idolatrous demon coins. Give them back to Caesar, all of them. And then when he says, give to God what has his image on it, well, he's talking about the scribe himself. Because people are made in the image of God. People are made to give tribute, to worship God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. But he knew the scribes weren't going to do either one of those things. They were too greedy to give up their money, and they were too prideful to walk humbly with their God. But what does this mean for us? All this stuff about render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. What does it mean for us and our money? Well, I think we can take some comfort that our money currently has the words, "In God we trust," printed on it. Which means, at least in theory, that our government acknowledges that there is a God and it's not them. So having money isn't automatically idolatry. Not automatically. It depends on how we use it. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. I think we all know that. So I would suggest that every dollar that comes into our possession, that we prayerfully consider exactly what the God in whom we put our trust, what he wants us to do with it. And then there's that render unto God what is God's thing. And this is really good news because Jesus is the image of the invisible God. He became a human being in the incarnation, which is what the whole Gospel of Luke is all about. Jesus is the ultimate rendering unto God for all of us. And he did it perfectly, which is good because all of our feeble attempts to give ourselves to God, those are barely half measures, and we all know it. So God is going to accept our offering of ourselves to him, but only because Jesus went first and did it perfectly and brought us to the altar with him. So this, by the way, is the end of the Pharisees, scribes, and Sanhedrin showing up and trying to trick him with their fancy questions. But they're not the only ones who were there that day with an agenda. Verse 27, there came to him some Sadducees, those who deny that there is a resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, having a wife but no children, the man must take the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife and died without children, and the second and the third took her, and likewise all 7 left no children and died. Afterward, the woman also died. So in the resurrection, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had her as wife." Okay, the Sadducees, they were the religious liberals, but they controlled the temple. They didn't believe in the resurrection or angels, not really in anything supernatural at all. And they only acknowledged the validity of the first 5 books of the Bible, the books of Moses, the Pentateuch, mostly because that's where the instructions for how to do the temple stuff was found. And they didn't have any use for the rest of the books. So they approached Jesus with what they think is like the equivalent of a, "Can God make a rock that's too heavy for him to lift?" question. They're trying to point out the absurdity of the resurrection. The Bible says if a man dies before he has a child, then his brother is supposed to marry the woman and provide an heir. So they come up with this ridiculous situation where some poor woman is passed down to 7 brothers who all die without her having a child. I mean, it's a sad story. And their question is, since none of them had any children with her or any more claim to her than the others, whose wife is she going to be in the resurrection? And it was a total stumper. They had him. So Jesus, he just admitted that he had been mistaken all along. Obviously, there is no resurrection. That would be illogical. So he just says, "You got me. I give up." No, that's not what happens. He's going to give them a little peek into some mysteries of the afterlife they had absolutely no knowledge of. Verse 34, "And Jesus said to them, 'The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to attain to that age and to the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage, for they cannot die anymore, because they are equal to angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection.'" Jesus dismantles a lot of their bad theology right there. Whose wife is she going to be in the resurrection? Well, this poor woman, she's not going to belong to anyone. She's going to be a fully adopted child of God, and she's going to inherit like a son. The afterlife isn't like this life. No one's going to marry. No one's going to be given to anyone in marriage. So he affirms the resurrection of the dead. He even gets a little jab in about angels. In the resurrection, everyone who is considered worthy will be a son of God and equal to angels. You know, those creatures that you don't think exist. And being sons of the resurrection, they will never die again. But what does he mean by those who are considered worthy? What do you got to do to make sure you're worthy? See, this is where the gospel comes in. What Jesus did for you that you could have never done for yourself. You can't make yourself worthy. Only Jesus can do that for you. In his death and resurrection, which are going to happen in just a few days after these conversations take place, Jesus is going to die in your place for your sin, for your unworthiness. And then he's going to rise from the dead, and he's going to offer you the greatest gift, his worthiness. He's just going to give it to you. And it's a promise. So trust in that promise. And you will be considered worthy, a son of God, an equal to angels. Now the Sadducees, they're not really the main adversaries of Jesus. They're kind of on the side. But this does give him a pretty great opportunity to lay down some truth about the resurrection. The Sadducees, their influence, it doesn't really go beyond the temple. And the temple, well, it's about to be destroyed pretty soon after Jesus rises from the dead. But for the sake of the people who were going to believe and who were going to be the church, Jesus needed to set them all straight on the promise and the reality of the resurrection. Also, since he's talking to Sadducees, he's going to blow their minds and he's going to answer them from the Pentateuch. He's going to point out a few things these sad smarty pants had missed about the resurrection that they refused to believe in. Verse 37. But that the dead are raised, man, even Moses showed in the passage about the bush where he calls the Lord the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Now he's not the God of the dead, but of the living, for all who live to him. And then some of the scribes answered, Teacher, you have spoken well. So, back when Moses was called into ministry by the voice of God speaking from the burning bush, again in Genesis, Jesus was kind enough to limit his answer to the part of the Bible the Sadducees actually believed. God says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not I was. It was present tense. He's still the God of those men who had died a long time before. So Jesus is saying very clearly, those men, they're still alive in the presence of God. The eternal Son of God, Jesus, he knows those guys because he is the resurrection and the life. He's also saying anyone who believes in him is already part of that heavenly kingdom that exists outside of time as we know it, with angels and archangels and all the company of heaven. It doesn't say how the Sadducees responded to his answer. But if they're anything like the liberal theologians that I've met, they didn't really hear him. They just wanted to continue in their disbelief. But the Pharisees, the scribes, they were like, yeah, in your face, sad boys. Teacher, you have spoken well. It's kind of like what happens at the State of the Union address. You know, when all the suck-ups stand and applaud along party lines. It's just gross partisanship. That's all that's happening here. See, we told you the resurrection was real, Sadducees. But now nobody's trying to trap Jesus with questions in front of the people anymore. They had been humiliated enough. But Jesus wasn't quite done dropping truth bombs for the day. But we'll get to that stuff next week. So let's look at all these interactions. What did you notice about how Jesus talked with these enemies? It seems to me he was respectful. He didn't get angry. He answered all their questions according to what they understood. He used their own knowledge and their own presuppositions to point them to the truth. It doesn't do any good to appeal to something that the person you're talking to doesn't believe or respect when you're talking with them. That's why just throwing Bible verses at people who don't care about the Bible, it doesn't get you anywhere. Now, God's word is true, and it's active, and it's alive, but you don't have to chapter and verse your references like a baseball bat in order for it to work. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, though, or he will be wise in his own eyes. It seems to me Jesus did both of those things perfectly. So you have all kinds of relationships with people, and a lot of those people have very foolish ideas. And by foolish, I mean ideas that are contrary to the wisdom of God. And it is your job to have conversations with those people about those things. It is. It's your responsibility. It's why God puts you in their life. But not to argue with them. Not to be disrespectful anyway. Don't let their foolish emotions control you. And don't let your foolish emotions control you either. You're not trying to win. Stop trying to win arguments. The goal is just to say something true so the Holy Spirit can use it to speak to them, man, on a level that you don't even have access to. Because you're just planting seeds. You don't have any control over what God's going to do with those seeds. And this is true like with your family members, the ones that you would love to see come to faith, the ones you would love to be sitting next to you in church right now. It's true of your friends, all the people you care about. You need to do more listening than talking. Because they got to believe that you understand where they're coming from, that you hear them, that you see them for who they are. And when they tell you their foolish ideas, which you want them to do, you want to hear them. Well, then you need to show wisdom and restraint, because what you're looking for is an opportunity to say something true in a way that they can hear you. Like the way Jesus spoke to the Sadducees from the first book of the Bible. Like the way he used a coin out of the scribe's own pocket to answer about paying tribute. And it's true of anyone you talk with, friend, stranger, enemy. Whether it's about politics or theology or mask mandates or whatever the current hot topic might be, people are going to have all kinds of crazy ideas. So walk in humility. Speak the truth, but in love, in grace. And whatever you say, make sure you say it in a way that doesn't chase them away from Jesus. You might be the last chance they ever get. Also, there might be other people watching. It might not be for the person you're talking to. It might be for the people who are listening to the conversation. And try to remember this. You're not Jesus. You're not going to be as clever as him. And you probably have some foolishness mixed in with your opinions too. So a little humility goes a long way. One day I hope that we're going to be able to open that restaurant pub that we keep talking about. A place where all kinds of people are going to show up and we will have the opportunity to talk with them about all kinds of things. My prayer is that we would start getting ready to have those friendly conversations so we don't chase off the people God sends to us. And we can start practicing now, like with each other. Amen. As the band is coming back up here, let's pray. Father, we ask that you would, help us to walk in humility. Help us to not be controlled by our emotions or by the emotions of other people. Help us not to be foolish. Help us to not chase people away from the salvation that you have shown us with our ugliness and our pride. We repent for all the times that we've done that. We humbly ask that you would forgive us and that you would let us begin anew to walk in peace. Amen.
For more information, go to newchurch.love or email frank@frankhart.com.
If these online resources have been meaningful to you, please consider going to newchurch.love/give and show your support by helping make this ministry possible. Thank you.